Africa, the land of storytellers. For centuries, our cultures and traditions have been passed down from generation to generation through stories. And it's for this very reason why stories are important to each and every African. We tell our stories through dancing, music, poetry, paintings, and most of all, through word of mouth. Today I want to bring you one of those stories. Whoa, not that story. This is the story I wanted to tell. This story comes from the Bemba people of Zambia. They have a story that includes anthropomorphic animals which can be able to talk and interact with human beings, which was one of the mainstays of African traditional stories, in that they had animals that represented different human qualities. In this case, we're going to have a story about a hare who is linked with cleverness, wisdom, and trickery. And today I bring you the story about Kalulu, which is a hare, and the boiling pot of water. Once Kalulu the hare was greatly annoyed to hear that the neighboring chief and his daughter were causing great concern to the young man of the chiefdom. The chief's daughter was a very pretty girl, and the young man felt it a great honor to be able to marry her. However, as the chief and his daughter were very vain, they felt that none of these young men were worthy of her hand. And so they devised a plan to punish all those who dare press their suit. To carry out this plan, the chief called all his subjects together in the courtyard and seated them in a big circle. In the center of the circle was this huge earthen pot of water, which was kept boiling. The eager young men were asked to line up and come one by one and take a bowl of the boiling water. And whoever was able to bravely drink it in one gulp would be the man to take the young lady as his bride. Obviously, this was an impossible task. At the first sip, all young men scolded their tongues so terribly the only thing they could do was drop the bowl and run away. This would leave them speechless and foodless for many days to come. And the chief and his daughter laughed out loud to see them just humiliated. This was the story that came to Kalulu's ear, and he decided to teach the chief and his daughter a severe lesson. So he came to the chief's village to attend the next session when the next suitors were to be tested. Kalulu took his place in line among the young men, and when it came his turn, he went to the bowl of water and took a bowl of water and placed it on the ground beside him. Then he started bowing down in respect from left to right, all around the stadium where people were assembled. And this shocked the villagers, because up until now, all the young men would silently walk up to the boiling bowl of water, take a sip, and shortly run away afterwards. This was quite extraordinary, and hence Kalulu aroused the people's interest as they settled in to watch the curiosity that was going to unfold before them. After his elaborate greetings, Kalulu then turned to address the chief. "Sir," he said, "suppose I succeed in drinking this boiling pot of water. Will you promise me something?" "Ah," said the chief disdainfully. "You're not going to succeed?" Kalulu winked at the people, and hilarious laughter broke out. With a talent for showmanship, he was known to be able to keep his audience captivated for lengths of time. Kalulu exploited this talent to the full and succeeded in diverting the people's attention away from the bowl of boiling water that he had left on the ground. "Suppose, for argument's sake," Kalulu persisted, "suppose I win this challenge. Will you then promise me, sir?" "I give no promises," shouted the chief, somewhat annoyed. "It's only fair, sir," Kalulu pointed out politely, in the interest of your daughter's future happiness." All right, what is it?" the chief barked. "Please say, 'I promise, sir,'" Kalulu insisted. "I promise," said the chief, without caring about what exactly he was about to promise his life to. "Now that is a word of honor, sir," Kalulu was firm. Say that you'll never organize again any type of cruel test in your village for any reason whatsoever. Thunderous clapping erupted from the crowd as they heard Kalulu deliver these words. The chief was taken back and could not walk back on his promise now in front of all his subjects. All right. Go ahead. Drink, he shouted at Kalulu. He waved his hands impatiently, and he was very, very vexed, having been trapped by this little nobody. All he hoped for now was a huge upset, with the hare miserably failing at the boiling water test. With that part settled, Kalulu then looked at the boiling water. It still looked quite hot. Am I to die? He protested, pointing so dramatically at the bowl. Let me go home and take leave of my parents, for I may never see them again. Without even waiting for the chief's permission to do so, Kalulu darted off into the bush with a great leap, and the sympathetic crowd awaited his next move. Indeed, it was an interesting turn of events. Usually the proceedings were rather dull, but today it seemed like everyone was up and looking. Some of the onlookers were cheering for Kalulu to come back, to hurry up. Come on, man, we can do this! After a sufficient amount of time had elapsed, Kalulu emerged from the bush with a great flutter and took up the bowl of boiling water from the ground and drank it down in one gulp. The crowd went into a mad frenzy. People began dancing and singing songs, congratulating Kalulu on his achievement. All the young men that were behind him sighed in relief as they were not going to have to go through that horrible test. In the midst of all the celebration, the chief was downcast, having to think about what he had promised the hare, and now that his daughter was going to be married off to him. Well, our benevolent hero, Kalulu, then decided to let the girl marry whatever young man she wanted, feeling that this embarrassment was far more than enough to account for all the horribleness that she had portrayed on the people. With that question settled, Kalulu made sure the chief stood by his promise that he had given Kalulu, and thereafter there was peace and plenty in the land.